are back here again with Arron from California, and Amy, obviously, on the other side of America. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Oh, no.
Karen. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Amy.
Yeah,
Hi, Karen.
we were just talking, because obviously Aaron's got loads of things he's going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Lumen project, which is another way to look after ourselves, and Arron has the solution. Aaron's been working on it for years. But right, to be coming into this hangout, I was just showing, Arron that was listening, Amy again, to the fact that a victory against USA government mandatory compulsory vaccination. So, Amy, what's your take on that then?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful thing. It's went into effect May of 2020, and it's saying that in the United States that we no longer have to have the mandatory vaccinations.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't
I
seem
think
to be all
that's
over the main news, though, does it?
right. I know. I think it'll be such a victory, that parents won't be forced to vaccinate their children because they haven't done research into the vaccines, and if anything, they may be harmful, and they probably don't even help. So from all the studies that I've been seeing, so I just think it's a really great thing that they have made this law that these mandatory vaccines will no longer be something that you have to do. So I think that is a great
See,
victory.
it is, isn't it? But it's very hush hush to come out, obviously, and someone's found this article, and it's not in the main news. Well, if it
Yes,
is, no one's talking about it much today, are they? It's the news to me. Jin
that's
brought it
right.
on our hangout. Arron, you there? What do you make of it then?
Oh, I think it's great news. It's perhaps the best news we've had in decades. It's. I mean, I'm just finding it. You're just showing me. I think I'll read this most relevant part of it. I just saw. They demanded the relevant government documents proving that all federally approved vaccines had been tested for quality over the past 32 years, and there were none. Meaning that none of these companies that produce the vaccines could provide any quality control documentation showing that they were safe for the last 32 years, which means it's all been a giant hoax. And all these conspiracy theories are now being proven not theories and factual, because showing that they were in fact doing this haphazardly, probably with the poisons that we've been talking about, causing autism like we've been talking about and like we've been seeing and showing. And this is actually perfect timing, because considering we have the coronavirus, and this will ensure, at least for U.S. citizens, that they cannot mandate vaccines for it, and which is what they're trying to do. Very actively trying to kind of weasel in there the mandatory vaccines as a solution to this outbreak, which was all a hoax in and of itself. But that's a different topic, perhaps.
Yeah, it's about time we had some good news, though, isn't it?
It is. It is.
But
Yes.
I'm just wondering yet again whether just hope it's just not part of the game, because there's just this never-ending game, and just when you think it's over, there's another
That's
layer.
right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there is game, but you got to realize there's multiple games. Okay, so it's not just one game. It's not just one, like in the game of chess. It's not just one person playing himself. It's at least two teams playing each other, two factions, and in this case, there's a lot more than two. And so it's very dynamic and complicated, and so much of it we don't know that it's hard to kind of say what's going on. But what we do know, what we can say with more certainty, is things related to the law and to the Constitution. And that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at something that has been legally set forth. So now there's a legal precedent, and there's a case that can be cited as to the reason why you cannot mandate that I take a vaccine. And if you try to mandate it, you are now breaking the law. And so that is something that we can use. And whether you believe it was, part of a good thing or part of the overall more evil agenda, it doesn't really matter so much because we still have the legal remedy, essentially. And that's just there for us, at least for the US citizens. Sorry about the rest of the world.
No, that's okay. At the same
Yeah.
time, right, I came across this video and I it's explaining it on the other video. I've got it uploaded. It's not out just yet as I'm doing this hangout. That basically this woman's interviewing and it's all about China. It's all about billions and millions of dollars and all this. And it talks about, America looks after NATO and it's all China's fault. And you think it's all China's fault on 0.3% of a thing when everybody else is showing 15% and 25%. China's on 0.3. But at the same time, they come into my news feed, into my YouTube thing. There was this talk that Boris was having, and only a few months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, he was talking about how tech London is. And the one thing I noticed was that while it was all shut down, they were still laying all the cables in America. In London, they were laying all the cables. And then Trump in this talk is saying basically that maybe things would have to change about how they dealt with China. It's all China's fault and everything. And then he said, because obviously business can go and it can go to London, and he's going, no, and I'm a hard man and I'm going to stop it, basically. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? What, is Boris taking over or something?
Is he taking over? Well,
Boris, I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, what, we're a problem now? What, no business can come to London? Oh.
Well, I think he's trying to bring all the business back to the US. He's trying to make the US sort of sovereign in regard to all these all these businesses that left, because I think that the push over the last 20 plus years has been to outsource overseas. And what that's done is it's really weakened the US economy fundamentally. And we really saw it during this pandemic.
Do you worry that with what's happening with all the money that, we could all slide under and become third world countries ourselves?
I mean, there's that concern. I think that's honestly what some of the groups are trying to do. I think that's what they would love for to happen. But I'm not worried about it because I see the bigger picture. I see what's going on and what's being
devalued, haven't we? And companies are going to have to look at it because we're not going to be able to afford all these things. But we've been devalued.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole monetary structure that we have been under ever since 1913, and even before then. But 1913, they created the Federal Reserve. Before then, they were getting started with the central banks all over the world, and China being the central bank also, by the way. And that was really the root of all the problems. Everything kind of stemmed from that imbalance and control, and they had control over the supply, the number of dollars in the economy, essentially. And so now we're just seeing them printing by the trillions these dollars.
Yeah, and that also is going to make this thing happen because I have this thing that I put out on the other hangout. You have an island, and you've got 10 people on it they've got £1,000 each, so that's £10,000. And when an immigrant comes your way, there's two of them. One's got £10,000 and one's got nothing. And I say, which one would you pick for your island? And a lot of people, everybody says the one with £10,000. And I go, no, because you invite him in with his £10,000. He devalues your currency, so your currency's worth less. You need the one with nothing. He needs to eat, sleep, and work. He helps the economy. And this is what they've been doing to us for years. This is why they allow all the immigrants to come in, wherever you are. We're all immigrants. But they allow us in because we bolster the economy.
Yeah, and if it were the immigrants bringing in money, that would be different. But it's actually the immigrants come in, they don't bring money, but instead we give them money because of the welfare system and how easily it abuses
devaluing the money. So we think prices are going up, but the money's being devalued at the same time. They're devaluing it.
Yeah, it's inflation. And again, this goes back to 1913. They created Modern Money Mechanics. It was a book that basically describes this whole entire process of over hyperinflation to the point of collapse. And so this economy, what you could say the U.S. economy, but really it's the world economy, because for the last many decades, the world has been dependent on the petrodollar. Well, it was meant to collapse. And so here we are. And so they were planning this. What we're experiencing now regarding this pandemic has been planned for decades, if not longer. And we're kind of going through it, but there's
there's light on the horizon, Arron.
There is light on the horizon. There really is.
Arron, I just want to say, Arron has been working at this project for a really, really long time. It's called Project Lumen, isn't it? Lumen Project. Project Lumen.
Lumen,
yeah. Could you please explain the remedy, please, and explain it to Amy, who hasn't heard it before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So it really kind of spawned probably 20 years ago in my mind. I was doing a lot of meditation in the woods, and idea just came to me. And ironically, it was related to computers in many ways, but I had no computer at the time. But I understood that there were tools that could be built that would enable we, the people of the world, to essentially assert our independence from these corrupt systems of governance, from all these various systems of corruption that have grown out of the greed and the power imbalance that we've seen. And so that was kind of the original inspiration. And I've been researching these various conspiracies for most of my life. So I was aware of all these things, or a lot of these things, and realizing there needed to be solutions. So I've really been focused on solutions. I've been trying to understand what the problems are, what the specific details of what's going on, what has been going on, and then also what to do about it, most importantly. And I know a lot of people they don't take it that far. They usually just get stuck in, the problems that we face now.
Right.
And so I realized, okay, someone needs to do this. And so I pretty much devoted my life to understanding what the solutions are and how to implement them. And so I've had to learn, this is why I got into software development many years ago. And ever since, what I've been doing with it is really figuring out how to build these solutions. And a lot of it stems around just recognizing our fundamental power, sovereignty, and that we, the people, have the voice, which then can actually determine everything else if we have the right medium to do so. And so the problem is we haven't had the right medium, and the media, the news media and the social media, the big tech, has all been dominant by these corrupt forces. And so they've been stealing our voice as well. And Carrie knows a lot about this, in that they censor, they edit now. YouTube has been caught editing videos like live, where they'll pull out certain snippets of things that they just don't want the public to hear as much as possible. And so,
I'm going to say one thing, Arron. There's something else that I really like, because obviously this isn't my first hangout with you. You are one of my oldest friends, through this awakening thing. And you were looking also at the spirituality of people as well, weren't you? This wasn't just,
absolutely.
A lot of people are just, it's very functional, isn't it? Politics and all that. You were looking more at spiritual things for the people, so that it's a way.
Yeah, and I guess I should give some context to why I was meditating in the woods. I've studied with a few different teachers throughout my life, and I've kind of been a monk. I've done a lot of just hermit kind of things where I'd be by myself for long periods of time, and deep in meditation and study and music and in creation of these various ideas. And I've had a lot of spiritual epiphany along the way. That's really giving me the confidence that we're going to be all right. That there's absolutely nothing to fear, although it might seem like that at times.
Yes.
But the reality is that we are all eternal, that we're all one, that this is just a dream, and that even though it's a dream, we still have to become lucid in this dream, and then help to bring forth the the golden age.
Wow.
You know, and I realized this was sort of my purpose. I realized, and not only my purpose, but many people that came here now to be alive during this time, and especially, you know, maybe in their 20s, 30s, or 40s right now, I think they absolutely came here for the sole purpose of being an instrumental part of this awakening that's going on across the world.
Yes.
And you see it, we see it, like, so all of my intuitions from 20 years ago are now coming true.
Yeah.
The things that I saw, the things that I predicted, that everyone called me crazy for, no one's apologized yet, but that's okay. You know, it's all coming true now, in that, like, this is the awakening, now is the time. And you know, I feel like what I've been working on is, again, for this purpose. It's for the purpose, so that we have a solution, because we look around, we see now, well, they were using who knows what in those vaccines for the last 32 years. Or we know they lied about the moon landing.
Right.
We know that the money system was corrupt from the get-go, and centralized, and it shouldn't have been. And that who was actually had the power to print the money? Well, they shouldn't have had that power.
Right.
You know, if you really look back to the original Constitution of the United States, it was a very good thing, still is, and it was very well done, to the point where it still has not been destroyed, although they're trying really hard right now.
Yes.
And so what that says to me is, we need to, in a way, we need to update it, and what we need to bring it up into the modern era, where we can integrate technology to reinforce these principles that are upheld in the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been studying the that could do that, as well as, you might say, ideological concepts or perspectives that would help us realize this awakening.
Yes.
So I've been studying memetics, as in, you know, the art of the meme, and understanding how that's shifting. Because if you really could step back and you could see the events that even have happened in the last 5 years, really objectively, you'd see that this has all been, it's sort of been given to us, it's been shown to us, and people are realizing it, they're recognizing it, and then they're acting accordingly, which in many ways is a digital war that's going on. It's on, you know, keeps on having the channels, and that's her role in this war. And many of us have different purpose in this war that is actively going on right now. But it's it's all memetics. It's all comes down to just the truth needs to rise to the surface, and it can't do that if you have so many powers that are pushing it down and repressing it and oppressing the people. And so the flat earth movement, for example, I think was one of the first big moves in this regard, where you had people just really starting to bring that truth to the surface. And we got a lot of pushback, which kind of gave us credence that maybe we were onto something. And now you have kind of another level of that, I would say, going on, where now it's in front of everybody's face, right? So it was like the flat earth was just like, anyone who chose to look into it could look into it, but if you didn't choose to look into it, you probably thought it was ridiculous. But now, how many people would you go around and say, you know, they're staging a takeover of the entire world with their New World Order Illuminati faction? Like, that doesn't sound so ridiculous now, does it?
Right.
Considering everything we're seeing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't even know if I can put into words how I feel about what's happening right now.
Oh, I know.
It's bordering craziness. So then we have people like you, Arron, and obviously, you know, I can't vote I don't want to be part of that anymore, the old way. I want something new in my life. I want a different way. I want where people care and people care about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
You know, we
Yes.
build the society we want. Government can't give that to us. The people can do that. The government can't. You know, and
Yeah.
community
That's
starts in
right.
your own back garden, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's that? Growing a garden?
No, a community starts in your own back garden.
Oh, yes, exactly. I agree. Yeah, it starts in
That's
your
what
own
I
back.
think.
I agree.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we each have to do what we're sort of called to do, what we feel called to do, and we have to
Yes,
find. And if we don't know what that is, we have to find it. You know, that's the first step. If you're sitting here wondering, well, what's my purpose? Well, then that's your first purpose, is to find what your purpose is.
exactly.
We each
What
came
do
here
you
with a
make,
very specific
Amy?
purpose.
What do you make of what Aaron's talking about then?
Oh, it sounds really awesome to me. It's offering solutions to all the problems that we've had over the ages. And so I think I love that it's working. He's working on solutions instead of only focusing on the problems, because that's what most people tend to do. But we
Mhm.
know things are wrong, and we could talk about it all day, but you have to have a solution. So yeah, I think that's a really great thing, what Aaron is talking about, because we really need solutions to all
Also,
the
also
problems.
in his program, it's about taking NASA to court as well.
Oh really? Wow, that would be
Well,
awesome.
and that was what, 4 years ago that I was talking about that. You know, right now NASA's closed. I don't know if you guys know that, but NASA's not essential, right? And
Right.
I'm hoping it just doesn't open back up, but we'll see.
I
Me
Um,
too.
know.
but you know, and that still might be part of the overall game plan, is to, I mean, definitely litigation, taking is a number of these entities and institutions to court is a part of the program, but it also seems like a lot of that's happening already.
Yes.
Just like with this vaccine thing, you know, that was the result of someone taking them to court. And so, and actually, what it looks like, it was Robert F. Kennedy that did that. And so, you know, justice is a part of this. And I used to think it was more of my part, right? I did until
Absolutely.
a few years ago. Until a few years ago, I thought that it was going to be my role to come out and start holding these people accountable. These evil factions, these groups that just are out of hand. And but then things started
Yes.
happening that showed to me that maybe I didn't need to be sticking my neck out in that way so much. And I've kind of retracted. You know, I've pulled
Yeah,
back out of the spotlight.
even you doing this project has its many pluses and minuses about what people think about you, what's going on, the
Oh
whole
yeah.
thing, doesn't it, Aaron?
Oh sure. So many things. Yeah. I mean, you know, and just to speak to that, you know, I'm a truth seeker, as in I have my whole life dedicated to finding the truth and never settling with, oh, this is the truth, but instead always being flexible that I might not have the full truth. And because of
Right.
that, it's led me to certain things that I would identify as truth that, yeah, I get a lot of people reacting and triggered because I speak the truth that I have come to. And
Yes.
Floss
was
is
that,
going loopy. So my daughter went, the dog. My daughter let her in the
no,
bedroom and she's like having a nervous meltdown
see,
here.
she's reacting. She's reacting to what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yes.
but
Uh-huh.
when she gets in there, she'll want to come out.
Uh,
So she doesn't know
I
what
see.
she wants. Carry on. If
Oh.
you hear the barking, it's her, okay?
I didn't hear it, but okay. Um, yeah, so it's definitely been a lonely journey. I do have some good friends that I've met along the way, and
Mhm.
you know, that's important to have like-minded people in your life. And so if you don't have that, go find that for sure.
Right.
You know, and if you have people in your life that are not good, that are not helping you, not serving you, then get rid of them. Um,
Yeah.
and that's
It's a
been,
little bit hard when it ends up being your family or things like that,
of
though,
course,
doesn't it?
of
Oh,
course, and to get
yes.
rid of them doesn't mean you have to, tell them something. You can just never call them again. You can just
Right.
not, and this is really important actually because we tend to light warriors, spiritual warriors, which probably everyone listening to this
Yeah.
um, is it's hard because you're going to be alienated, and you're going to have people, you're going to have parasitic people. They're going to attract to you, and they're going to try to suck your energy, and they'll do it as long as you let them do it. And so we
Mm-hmm.
gotta that's our first stand we gotta do is for all
Yeah,
the
well, they're
toxic.
even with the politics, they're a bunch of vampires, aren't they? Because they want your attention, they want your
Yeah.
money, and they want you to think they're God.
Oh yeah, the vampires
Yeah.
everywhere. It's like the Matrix. It's like anyone can take the form of an Agent Smith, right? And so you have to be careful about that. You have to know who's your ally, and you have to be open that maybe this person isn't my ally. Maybe they're actually trying to bring me down, and they might not know they're trying to bring you down, or that they're
Right.
a parasite or a vampire. But that doesn't mean that they're not.
So, Aaron,
Mhm.
what are you? So you're still finishing, aren't you? You're still finishing Project
Yeah,
Lumen.
if I was
But
done, you'd still.
what's your plan? What's your goal for this? Because obviously, right now we've been put into this. Well, we've been funneled into this situation. It would be brilliant if Project Lumen was going, but
Yeah.
where are we?
Well,
What do you want to
here's
happen?
the thing with that. If I had everything going right now, I would be under major attack. I would be one of the main people under attack, one of the main things under attack, just like any other platform, alternative platform besides Google or Facebook or Twitter is under attack, and uh, and then the leaders behind those are under attack as well, and they're targeted. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to avoid that. uh,
Yes.
and also letting some things play out. I realized that I do need to let some of these things play out because there is a bigger plan
So
at effect here.
if anybody's interested today in understanding even
Uh-huh.
more about Project Lumen, because in the past you've shown us like the computer like program, you've shown us the layers and layers and layers of things, and it's probably
Uh-huh.
changed a bit since I've seen it. But
Hmm.
if people want to get in touch with you, because they, because obviously, who wants to vote, Tory, Liberal, Democrat, Republic right now? None of us do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's not. I'm
I'd
not
like,
suggesting that that's the solution.
I've been
Although
following
I.
your project for quite a long time now, and yeah.
Mm,
We want
yeah.
something else now, Aaron.
Well, and I understand that, and all right. So everything has a time, and it has the best timing, and
Yeah.
and it's important to that I respect that and that I go along with that. And I don't have really much of a choice because this stuff takes
But
the time
the
that it
idea
does.
is, isn't it? The idea is your project is it's a bit like it's not a political thing like we're going to the Tories or the Liberals or the Labour, but it's a bit like the Emperor's clothing. If you understand your project, we just turn our back on the rest of it and we walk forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It's kind of like it's just an alternative to everything we've been doing, and it would just necessitate that people get on board with it. And if enough people got on board with it, then there you go. We are using the alternative, just like with all these other systems. You have if you have a everyone has a government in their country, right? Well, that's by
Yeah.
consensus. Everyone consents to that government being that government. And same with the money system. Everyone consents that the dollar is worth this, the yen is worth that, and so it's all by consent, and it's all by actual adoption. That people use the dollars so they have value. That people trust their government so it has value.
Right.
Um, and that is changing, obviously, because the economy is crashing and the governments are all being exposed for corruption. And I mean, all of them, they really are. All the governments have been highly corrupt this whole time. And so that's being exposed. So people are waking up to that. And so that's the timing that I need to respect is that's happening. It might
Yeah.
not look like it sometimes. It might look like the New World Order is taking over and that we're all screwed. But I
Yeah.
assure you we're not. I assure you that there is a much greater plan here at work. And from all appearances, it's going very well. And it's going according to plan. And my plan with Project Lumen fits into that very subtly, and it will, and it'll make sense. It'll make more sense how it all fits together as time goes on. But I can't, I
Why
don't want
that
to put the
name,
cart
by the
before the
way,
horse.
Arron? Why did you pick that name?
Well, it's lumen means light in Latin, and so it's the project light. Essentially, you could look at it, but it's also project light. So the whole thing is to project the light of the source into this world, and so it's I talk about the term light technology, where essentially tapping into the technology of prime creator, of the source of all things, that is illuminating, through the sun. Actually, the sun is just broadcasting these codes, and if you can read it, then you'll see exactly what I've been seeing. It's the same thing, and I've met a number of
How
people
do
who
we
have seen
get from
things.
this system to Project Lumen? How do we get from one to the other? Because they're totally different.
Gradually, we have to take one step at a time, and that'll be true with the adoption and how much people use it, and as well as the products that I launch. I'm not going to just launch it all at once. I'm not going to have it all done at once. But I'll launch an initial thing, and then it'll sort of progress from there. And I'll tell you, I am building this kind of around the Iron Coin project, and don't get lost in the coin part of that, because it's actually it's really a decentralized network. It's kind of like it is very much an alternative to the internet. It's a decentralized internet as compared to the current internet, which is actually centralized. Most people don't realize that, but that's a massive danger that we face, because they could pull the plug, they could flip the switch, and then we wouldn't be able to convey the truth to each other.
That's right.
And so we need to be able, and so this is protecting our First Amendment, which is the freedom of speech, and the ability to express that, vital to the awakening, to the people waking up to the corruption that has been, and then to present these new solutions. We also need the internet. And so that's kind of one of the main fundamental projects, is the Iron Coin network, that would be essentially providing internet via it'll be using the internet for now, but it's kind of like a side channel on the internet.
Yeah, I suppose what it is, for us older ones, I'm not saying computers aren't important, but I have a big section of my life where I didn't have a computer, whereas people today, computers, phones, it's always been in their lives. And I have this feeling you can't just wipe out a whole system that we've been living in and think the new ones will take over and be perfect.
Yeah.
I just think you have to have bits of the old one with a different future, different concept. You still have to have
exactly
parts.
true. Yeah.
You can't just get rid of it all.
And that's really important to understand, because we can't just make this massive leap all at once, because although we could, right? So we could all just decide tonight, the whole world just decides that we're no longer going to use the centralized fiat money system. We could decide that we're going to no longer use the traditional governance systems that we've had. The whole world could just decide, let's go ahead, let's all go with the U.S. Constitution. I think that would be a brilliant idea. We can make that decision, but we won't make that decision overnight. And if we started to make that decision, there'd be so much pushback that who knows, that could be very, catastrophic. And so instead, we have to take it one baby step at a time.
Arron? It could happen because we locked ourselves in our houses overnight without any military, soldiers, police, nothing. We did it. We imprisoned ourselves. So if we could do that, we could change ways and have a whole new system here quite quickly. Well, fairly quickly.
Yeah, and the reason.
Imagine it. What would you be? Would you be the president then?
No, because it would be decentralized.
Right.
So there would be no central leader in that same way. Well, this would be for us to determine, and that's part of why it needs to take time. Is they didn't write the Constitution or the Bill of Rights overnight either.
Right.
And actually, this is something I wanted to talk about. When they first wrote the Constitution back in 1776, they did something called a Constitutional Convention, and what we need to do now is have another Constitutional Convention. we need to reevaluate the whole entire thing. And that was their purpose back then, and that's what we need to do now. And I almost think that this might be a good course of action as far as like activism is, let's get not just the US, but let's get the whole world together somehow, and let's have a constitutional convention, and let's evaluate the governance of the entire world, because we're all grown-ups here, and we're all realizing that there's been a bunch of children that have been in charge.
Arron and I get on really well, but we maybe differ a little bit when I like with what I told you what I thought Trump was, which we're going to get into after this. But you know, what happens if it's all just a mirage and a lie, and everything we're looking at is Peyton Place, Dallas Dynasty, everything?
Well, it is. This is all. It's Maya. It's the illusion. It is all a lie. It's not reality. None of this is reality, and that's the transcendental realization. And anyone can realize that through meditation, through yoga, through various spiritual practice and study. This can be, you can realize that this is a dream, and it's a collective dream, though. See, that's the thing. It's a collective dream, so there is a realness to the fact that it is a collective dream. Because I'm not the only one here. You're not the only one here. We're all in this together, and so we have to respect that. But at the same time, there's fuckery afoot. There's been all kinds of deception that has been going on for a long time, and it's bred the governmental systems that we see, the country, the national borders, and everything that we have now currently is all a result of this systemic corruption and greed and power hungriness. And so it's really important that we recognize that there are good guys out there fighting for us. Even though all we see are the bad guys, that's because the good guys are much quieter, because they had to be. Just like I'm a good guy, but I've been quiet lately, and this is the same reason. Is because my goal is to succeed, not to get a giant bullseye painted on my head, right? And the only way I can succeed is if I do it gently enough that I don't rock the boat too much along the way. And so that's my mission, and I know a number of other people have similar kinds of missions, and so all those people are just kind of quietly doing their thing for right now. But the force of good that is present right now, and the number of people that are aware to whatever degree of what's going on, and aware of whatever degree of their own purpose in it, is immense. We're talking the tens of millions right now on the whole earth, and it's so large that once the time is right, it'll just be a very natural maneuver of us kind of taking the stand that we need to take and making the various actions and implementing the solutions, right? Because I could round up a team and we could get this project Lumen done much faster, right? Or I could go live and say, all right, world, we're going to get this done. I've certainly considered that, but it's not time yet for that, because justice is being served. And I know there's a lot of controversy about that notion. A lot of people don't believe that's happening or are skeptical, and I certainly appreciate that. But you just got to look. You got to look into what is being declassified, what is being released to the world. What we just see this. We're just now seeing this vaccination case be wrapped up after 2 years. It's been going for 2 years, and just on the 18th.
Can I say something there? This one on.
Oh, it has COVID in it. You're saying?
Well, I just had a message from Mike Helmick. He said, this case was dismissed. There is no victory here.
Oh, really?
Check. Yeah, that's what he's just written to me.
Oh, dear. The plot thickens. Yeah,
But
I mean,
I did just try to tell you that she was reading something. It said 2018 on it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's I mean, this article, which is from Tap Newswire, I don't know, but it says May 18th, 2020. But the
Right.
original case started back in 2018, in July 9th, 2018.
Why would it say all that if it was fake?
Well, because we're in a war.
Yeah.
We're on a war on truth. We're on a war of
It's
information.
the war against the people, the war against the. I think the internet's involved in this war as well.
Yeah. It really, actually, I mean, to define the war, it's a war between globalists versus the populace, as in the people of the earth, and the ones that are, have been in control and power are the globalists and the technocrats, and they're honestly, they're fighting for their own survival right now, is actually what's happening, because they're being threatened of total annihilation. Their entire scheme that they've been working on for centuries is coming to an end, but not the way they had planned for centuries.
Arron. Even though they told us to stay home, they wanted us to go to the hospitals.
Yeah. I mean, we can see, okay, so in New York there with Cuomo, they sent sick people to the nursing homes, which was against the doctor's recommendations, killed over 5,000 people because of that action. And, now it just seems like, oh, that was horrific. I mean, it is horrific, but it seems like that's all, and he's going to get away with it. But the thing is, he's not going to get away with it. He's going to be held, there's going to be a trial about that whole entire situation, that whole scenario.
Another one.
My guess is that Cuomo is going to prison for the rest of his life, if not getting the death penalty, based on everything I've been seeing, looking into, and even what some lawyers have been saying about it. He knowingly did that. He knowingly went against the doctor's recommendations, and he would have to provide the exact data that caused him to do that, or that means he's guilty of murder of over 5,000 people. And that's probably the case. And it's similar in some of these other states that are being very tyrannical about their control. And now they're not going to be allowed by the DOJ, the Department of Justice. They're not going to be allowed to go and just completely violate our constitutional rights. However, they are being allowed to break the law, because that's giving us, evidence against them in a court of law to be able to actually throw the book at them.
Yeah.
And that's what's necessary. That's actually, I think that's why this whole thing happened. One of my theories, you probably haven't heard, is that I think the White Hats started the virus. I think they started the whole rumors of the virus. I think they kind of perpetuated it so that the globalists would run with it.
Yeah.
So they would implement this whole thing, and they're kind of just giving them rope to hang themselves with. They're doing
Is that why when they show us the figures, China's on 0.3, whereas America's on 11%, we're on 15%.
Yeah, but that's changed, hasn't it? When this first started, I was following this since December of last year, and all the rumored conspiracy theories that were coming out in December and January were that China has this crazy virus that's killing everyone, turning people to zombies. Just their lungs are exploding on the spot, and you would see these videos coming out. There's all these bodies spread out because they have so many dead bodies. They don't even have places to put all the dead bodies. And so this was the narrative, and their death rate was 3% or something, and the R naught factor was really high, and that was all fake. That was all not true. And then the mainstream media wasn't even reporting on it, so I had all these conspiracy theories.
Is it that it's not true? But what happens is, because like when we talk to you, we say, well, Trump runs everything, but a lot of Americans say, oh no, it's you British, you run everything, and you're thinking, it just depends which side of the water you're on, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, and again, you have to look at the separate factions. You have to look at the different groups that are at play on the chessboard. And Trump's one of them. And you could say the UK, but really it's the globalists, the elite. And you could say Trump's an elite, but look at his actions. He is being attacked
we're being
by
taken
the elite.
over right now, Arron. It feels like we're having a stock. It's like we've all shut up. We're having a stock take. It's all happened around the new financial year. Banks are giving out loads of money. Like, what the hell is all this? Like,
Well, what's
something.
happening this year? What's happening this year? Presidential election.
Yes.
So that's why this is all happening right now. Is they're trying to they're literally doing all of this just to try to prevent Trump from winning the next election.
Hmm.
Because his biggest victory was the economy.
Yes.
So
That's
that's
if
what they
he's
did.
a real person and he's not part of the game. Because I see it as a game.
Exactly. You said it.
Yeah.
Well, and he is part of the game. You got to understand, this is a big game. It's bigger than just
Yes.
one group against the people. It's like Trump is on the side of the people, but he's also he's been in the club, you could say. He
Yeah.
hasn't done anything evil, and if he had, they would have exposed that. Because remember, they did a trial for 3.5 years, tried to impeach him for any crime
Yeah, I know, but
Yes.
whatsoever.
when you look at that, Nancy Pelosi's got numbers on her throat. It all looks like superimposed or it's virtual reality. None of it looks real.
So she's
Trump has
probably not real.
panda eyes. Like, that's because he's that person, whoever is him, is wearing a mask. And they have to put the panda eyes on because they can't match the masking.
I mean, that's your theory, Karen, that we're going to have to agree to disagree on, but that's fine.
Yeah, you think, look at the colour of him. He's a panda.
He's orange. You don't see orange pandas.
The Queen is orange as well. But I think this is the media colouring things in for us to make people look better.
Yeah, could be. I don't know what to say to that, Karen. I really don't. But that's okay. I mean, I'm not denying that
They've lied about us going to the moon. They lied about what happened in 2001. They're lying about what we're living on. They're well prepared to lie.
Yeah.
But you believe them in regard to Trump, is what you're saying, though, because they're the ones that say that
I
Trump
just think
is
that he's
evil
part of it.
tyrant.
He's part of the politrick.
Yeah, and that's what the mainstream media says about him. That's what they want us all to believe, is that he's just another elite globalist that doesn't actually care about the people and is just doing all this. It's personal vengeance for him, is what they try to say. But
well, I did read in one document from the World Economic Forum, and it was all these different articles and from the Davos convention, and these people wrote articles, and they did say that the biggest threat to the new world order was going to be the Trump administration, because he's not going to go for this kind of globalism. Right. So when I read that, I thought, that's hope that maybe he is not, in on it or part of it, that maybe he is trying to keep us out of all of that.
Or it is just so that he gets re-elected again.
Yeah, or that he...
Well, why would he want to do that? Why would he just want to get re-elected again? He was a billionaire.
They have to make him look good, because it's already distorted. I said, when Boris did this video outside 10 Downing Street, it wasn't real. He was already voted in. They made that months ago.
Yeah, and there's been voter fraud going on every single election, as far as we can look back, and which is why they're trying so actively to. I mean, they just caught, actually, like maybe yesterday, they just caught. I think it was in Pennsylvania, the the election judge for they were doing some primary vote or something, and this guy was cheating. The judge he's in charge of this whole district's voting, and he's in there. He thought no one was looking. He was in there just voting for Biden.
Wow.
Yeah, and they caught him. And so he's busted. And actually two groups were caught already committing voter fraud. And that's why Congress hasn't come back in session, and why they want to delay. They want to keep this lockdown as long as possible. That's why they've had to
close everything down.
Well, because they want to justify mail-in voting.
Yes.
Because they can manipulate those. They can cheat. They want to cheat. They're cheating at all costs. They've always cheated, and they're trying to cheat, and Trump's not letting them cheat. He's onto them. And that's what people need to recognize, is that he is taking the action that would make sense for someone who is exposing the deep state and shutting them down and bringing them to justice ultimately. But you have to also understand that he can't just come out and say this directly.
Right.
he has to kind of gradually lead to it, and he can't be the one bringing the justice.
We all just want the truth now. You know, if he's got to announce it, he has to do it.
But he can't do that. No, he can't do that. He might be able to do that in his second term. He certainly can't do that right now because he has to get reelected. Because you got to understand, if Trump doesn't get reelected, whatever you think about that, I can assure you that now is the time. If Biden were elected president of the United States, that would be the time to be afraid.
But you know what? I don't believe in politics anymore because I just think they're not being horrible to you, Arron. I just think they're a bunch of actors, and I don't believe in it anymore. Which is why I'm just over and all that you've got a different project that we can walk away from these people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's just a panto, whichever way you look at it, it's just one great big pantomime.
Well, I think that's too simplistic, Karen. I think you can't just look at it's not all black and white. It's not that everyone's good or everyone's bad or anyone's good or all bad.
Do you think Project Lumen will be a political thing or not a political thing?
In a way, yeah, because it'll be working in those spaces, but hopefully not, because it won't be playing the political game, because it'll be just ensuring, it'll be the thing that can ensure transparency and fairness and equality. So
it's a bit like a program you get, and then you put it into the system, and then things change, that kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, very much. I mean, it's very much like Bitcoin in the sense that Bitcoin kind of just came out of nothing, like they just programmed it, and then it went on to become its own worldwide currency that you cannot cheat. You cannot steal someone else's Bitcoin. Like you can with a bank, and you can't have, a central bankster, their bank, that just cannot occur.
Explain to people this whole thing, like there could be a different system. Yeah, that's where you feel, isn't it? Yeah.
In regard to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is we could have different things in the future. It may not be what it is right now, but we've got right now, this is the best option to have this monetary system in this thing we're in.
Well, no, not the monetary system. The monetary system is horrible.
No, I mean the Bitcoin, the coins.
Oh, Bitcoin. Yeah. And I'm just bringing that up as an example. So it's an example of where you can use technology to create something that is corruption proof. Okay, so you cannot steal someone else's Bitcoin, and that's the whole point. That's the whole reason why it's valuable. That's the reason why now it's at $9,000 per Bitcoin. And it's going to go up. It's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars per Bitcoin. And that's the reason. Either it's digital currency. It's cashless, it's the beast. But the important thing to just recognize about it is that it's enabling fairness with money. And it's enabling each person to have their own bank vault, that they don't have to trust a bank to keep their money. They just have it themselves. And you just keep that private key safe, and now you are secure with your money. And now it's not there yet because it's so volatile. It's not a safe place to hold your money. But it will get there, and it'll get to the point where it is stable eventually. And honestly,
is in your project Lumen, where can they get in touch with you, Arron?
Well, I got projectlumen.com. Actually, projectlumen.org, I think, is where I actually go into this stuff. But then eartharron.com, Arron krieshok.com. Probably can't spell my last name. And then on all the social media, I'm like Earth Arron everywhere. I think even if you type in Google Earth Arron, I might be in there. So yeah, that's the way. And I try to respond. I do respond to when people reach out. I love it when people reach out. So yeah, please do. If you're resonating with these ideas and you just want me to know about you, reach out. If you have some ideas you want me to hear, please reach out. If you want to be involved, please reach out. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good, 'cause that's,
If you want to, if you want to troll me, then don't reach out.
that's good as well, Arron.
Well,
Okay.
Aaron, what? Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was going to ask Aaron, what do you think about the Federal Reserve as far as I think Trump took it out of the hands of the Rothschilds and making them answer to the Treasury now, the central bank, the Federal
Yeah.
Reserve. I think that's a good thing personally, but I'm
Oh,
not
it's a
the most
tremendously good thing.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not the most economically savvy person, but
Mhm.
I do think that that Federal Reserve had got to get out of the hands of the Rothschild family because they just did whatever they wanted and they didn't have to
Yeah.
answer to anybody. But now
Yeah.
they're going to have to answer to the United States Treasury Department. So I think that's a good thing. Do you
Well,
agree?
it's not just that they're answering; they actually ingested the Fed. So the Treasury is now the Fed. You could say that there's no Fed anymore in a way,
Okay.
although there still is, and there's still a chairman of the Fed, and they still have the interest rate thing, but that's pretty much managed by the Treasury now.
Uh-huh.
But it's 0% interest rates right now, and Trump's really pushing them to go negative. And who's eating that bill? It's the Rothschilds and the central banks are eating. And who's dishing out these trillions of dollars? Well, everyone says it's the taxpayers, but actually it's not. It's the central banks that are paying this money right
That's
now.
what I thought too.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
And
wasn't sure, but
and
that's
you
what I thought too.
you could assume it's a safe assumption that okay, the taxpayers are going to have to pay that in the future, which has been the case generally. However, if it is shown that, let's say, the Fed and central banks were committing fraud, were committing crimes against humanity, well, then we no longer have to pay them back.
Right, right. That's right.
Yeah. So Trump is bankrupting these central banks, basically.
Yes.
He is,
Yeah.
and he's doing a lot of things that are behind the scenes, very subtle. People just aren't aware. Because I mean, how many people even talk about how the Fed was brought into the Treasury? Not many people know that. But it's a
Exactly.
fact, and it's literally all the people that have been saying for decades, end the Fed. Well, it's been ended.
Yes. Right. So I think
So
that's a great thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it all does line up. I think what we're gonna see regarding like the plan that's being implemented right now, I think we're gonna see essentially a metals-backed currency instead of
Mm-hmm.
so gold-backed. So this is what JFK was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Was create a silverbacked. He actually did create a silverback currency,
Yes.
and then we all know what happened to him shortly thereafter.
Yes.
But now Trump is doing it more successfully because actually because of the lockdown, because of the national emergency, because he instated that is what enabled him to end the Fed, you could say.
Okay.
And it's really genius if you look at it from the geopolitical perspective of how like
Mm-hmm.
he has taken over. I mean, he's literally dominated the most powerful force. None of us ever thought we'd be able to get this far.
I
Never.
know.
And
That's
here we
right.
are. And we're
Yes.
going further. We're going further. There's going to be justice served. It's going to take a while because it has to be done by the book.
I want
Yes.
And
the
that
whole
means,
lot to go to prison, all of them.
well, and a
Yeah.
lot of them will. A lot of them will. And a lot of them will get worse in prison because the penalty for
What
high
do you
treason
make of the
is
fact
death.
that Hillary might be going for candidates? I can't say the word. I can't say the word. She's
Candidate?
going to. Yeah, that's it. She's in
Yeah.
the running elections. It's like, what? I thought she was going to be arrested.
No, she's not. I don't think she's going to run. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of theories and speculations, but no one knows. As far as we
Right.
know, Biden is the Democratic candidate, but the DNC, Democratic National Convention person last week said, "Well, Biden is not our candidate, and so we need to have a convention in order to decide." And so she just kind of slipped that out. It might have been an accident that she said that, but So we don't know like what's going on in that regard. But we do know that just this last week, materials came out, evidence, the audio recordings of Joe Biden on the phone while he was vice president with the president of Ukraine, offering a quid pro quo, saying you have to fire this. If you fire this prosecutor that's investigating my son, that's
Mm-hmm.
doing all this illegal activity. If you fire him, then we'll give you the $1 billion aid from the U.S. So he
Yeah.
was holding the U.S. aid over Ukraine, and now he bragged about this publicly, so everyone already knew it. But
Right.
but now we have the evidence. The evidence came out, audio evidence, and same with Barack Obama last week. A lot of evidence came out. I mean, just over the last number of weeks, we've been seeing tremendous evidence come out that is
Yes.
showing conclusively that the Obama administration was spying on the Trump campaign well before he was in office,
Yeah.
and after he was in office, but also all these other people, and also all of the American people they
Yeah.
were spying on, and we
Yes.
already kind of knew that from Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, but
Do you know
like
what it
this
sounds
is,
like, Aaron? It sounds like we're living in some form of communism, to be honest.
well, absolutely, yeah, that's what they are. I mean,
Yes.
social, they call themselves democratic socialists. Well, what is a socialist? A socialist is a budding communist.
Exactly.
They're just trying to sneak in communism. And why? Well, because this is mostly all China. China's behind almost all of this. And not
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese people, but the corrupt, tyrannical leaders are
Right.
essentially have been running the world into the ground. They've been running these schemes. They've been infiltrating all these governments. You could go back to Project Paperclip, World War II, and what happened after that? After World War II, you had basically all these Nazi scientists being brought over to the U.S. They formed the
Yeah,
CIA,
Yes.
and the CIA has been corrupt pretty much since the beginning.
Yep.
And that was formed. That was, I think one of the first directors was George Bush Sr.,
Yes.
who was also at the JFK assassination, happened to be there,
Yeah.
and he had his hands in everything.
He
And then
did.
you have the 9/11 attack that happened under his son's presidency,
Right.
and
what an idiot he looked.
well,
Yes.
yeah, that was probably by design.
Yeah,
Because that's another thing. And to your point, Karen, like George W, the son, he was much smarter than he let on. He was pretending to be dumb. He was pretending to be this backcountry hick, but he wasn't that. He didn't talk that way. That was an act. Absolutely, it was an act. And we've had this. I mean, that's what most politicians are, actors. Absolutely. And most of this has all been a giant theatrical show. Absolutely, without a doubt. And I think there's even some truth, Karen, to some of your things, like the Chris Watts case, and maybe some of these people are reptilian shapeshifters. I wouldn't discount that completely, right? I don't think that Trump is the Queen of
computer
England,
programs that are
but
doing it, masks and computer
sure,
programs.
deep fakes. We know about that, and um, yeah, I think there's some of that going on without a doubt. But at the same time, there's still multiple factions, so it's not black and white. It's not just everyone's in on this giant plan. There's multiple. I'll tell you what I believe is really the overall kind of breakdown of what I think is going on is the globalists, we'll call them, which would be like Bill Gates and George Soros and Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all the central banks and all these big tech companies and the CEOs. They're all in on this globalist plan, and it was a very specific agenda to unleash this virus on the world. And then Bill Gates is going to swoop in with his saving vaccine. But in reality, it's all eugenics. And we know Bill Gates has talked about wanting to
Yes.
reduce the population and all their poisoning of the water, poisoning of the air through chemtrails. We know that they've been practicing
Yeah.
eugenics for quite a long time, and it
But
probably
they
goes back
did
to
try it on the
early
people. The
1900s.
people didn't do what they wanted them to do because actually they were narcissistic and selfish. Maybe they made them
Yeah.
too selfish.
Well, and it goes well beyond that. It's absolute God complex.
Yeah.
And they think they're righteous. They think that they are the ones that should be here and no one else should be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And everyone else should just be slaves for them. And so they were trying to essentially program everyone's minds in to be slaves. And they were getting pretty far with it, if you hadn't noticed, which you probably did.
Yeah.
But you know, they made a lot of progress in terms of programming the entire population to believe that, I don't know, we're on a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum of space, that we're purposeless, that there's no intelligent
And
design to
the
any of this,
moon.
that we went to the moon, that 9/11 was a bunch of terrorists with box cutters, that, you know,
Yeah.
all these things that they've told us.
Yeah, so they could change the law.
Yeah, they've always,
Yes.
yeah, the Patriot Act soon followed, and now they're trying to, you know, implement these various, like the aid package that Pelosi and the Democrats just tried to, they voted through in the House, but it's not going to make it through. They were trying to sneak in all these things, you know, basically trying to implement their socialist agenda, but that leads to the communist agenda. And then you have the well, you have the 5G and the whole thing with 5G. And I'll tell you the real thing that I know about with that is that Huawei is a company out of China. And it's actually the company that it's a state-run company. So it's one and the same. It's kind of like the Fed was to the U.S. government. It's that way to the CCP, the Chinese government. And so that's why Trump did not allow Huawei to set up 5G in our country. He is allowing other companies to do so. And I know there's a lot of controversy about that topic,
Hey, it
but
just made me think about something. Do you know something, Aaron? When I went years ago, I worked for this guy. His name was Lars.
okay.
He was actually Danish. And he worked for the companies that make the masks. And then obviously people buy the masks. Is that what it would have happened now then?
Yeah, well, you know, they were hoarding
Those
all
that
these
own the
masks.
masks.
Yeah, they were hoarding all these masks, it turns out. And actually, Bill Barr, our attorney general, he came out and he made a statement that basically if anyone's found that they were hoarding masks, they will be penalized. And then all of a sudden you find all these masks. All these companies had these masks just hanging out like they were ready. You know, you had insider trading.
Maybe that's why they're attacking China, because they want to go for the more third world countries. Because here we've got iPhones and stuff. You know, Africa, other places, they don't have these things. They have old phones. China, old phones.
Well, China's pretty advanced technologically.
Yeah, in the cities, but not in the country, I shouldn't think.
No, it is. Yeah, they're very advanced. They're more advanced than probably anywhere, actually,
Really?
because they don't have any limitations on their technology. So they can come out with the newest, latest, greatest thing years usually before the U.S. sees it or the Europe sees it. Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it's been for a long time. And it's because it's communist, so they just control everything. If they don't want the people to have a certain technology, they don't let them have it. But they all have to have the apps on their phone that allow the central government to track their every move, their every spending of every UN, and you know,
Mind you, that's the media telling us that, though, isn't it? It may not be happening.
no, that's a fact. No, that's a fact. That's not the media telling us that. That's people who been. I mean, yeah, you can get a lot of information about all this from articles and real journalism. It does happen. It's just not presented on the mainstream media. But the independent media, absolutely, there's so much good information. Like one of my favorites is the Epoch Times. Check them out. They have a lot of really good. They do real journalism, and they have a lot of in-depth analysis, and a lot of it has gone into China and how they're basically, China has been trying to take over the world for quite a while, and they've been succeeding in that. Like all of the media, all the six major companies, it's owned by China, and maybe not directly, but if you follow the money, if you look at
But
the
it does
main,
seem to be China's on the table right now. Whatever it is, it's China.
well, yeah, and this is why. I mean, we're at a war with China right now. It's just most people don't realize it. It's China versus the rest of the world, or the population of the rest of the world, and most of the governments, most of the political officials are in with China. That's the thing. That's why you don't see on the mainstream media, they don't bash China. They don't, and they attack Trump for bashing China, right? That's why Trump keeps on bringing up China, is because the media isn't. The media is protecting China. Remember, it was just maybe 6 months ago or a little longer where who was the basketball player that came out wearing like a pro Hong Kong shirt, because Hong Kong's been going through their own revolution lately, and basically like the government of China stopped sponsoring that basketball team or something, or threatened to. So the guy had to make an apology for wearing a pro Hong Kong shirt, which Hong Kong is free. They have a democratic system. They're more free than all of the rest of China. And so China wants to put an end to that. They would love to. And it's very complex. There's a lot of dynamics to it. And there's multiple factions at play, and there's a lot of things going on below the surface that we don't necessarily know about unless you're really digging and you're following along, which I try to do. And that's why I'm seeing these patterns and the correlations where, because going back to the big picture here, I think really you have the globalists versus everyone else for a long time. And then all of a sudden you have Trump wins the election in 2016, and everything changed from that point. And now you had all the globalists completely directing their attacks against Donald Trump and all of his followers. And it's like Trump is a part of a bigger plan. I don't want to say that it's all his plan, because it's not, but he is a part of a bigger plan that was to sort of take our power back, for the people to take our power back, for us to bring the republic, to restore the republic in the U.S.
And why doesn't he get the law for the media lying to us reversed? Because without the truth, we're nowhere.
Well, they have freedom of speech. They have freedom of speech. They have a constitutional right to say whatever they want, unfortunately.
You know what I mean, don't you? I mean, obviously 9/11's where they were doing it to us, but 2014, Obama got it passed in, so that was law. Why doesn't Trump reverse it?
What? Patriot Act? Is that what you mean?
Is everything from the Patriot Act then now?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what, after 9/11, that's what they implemented that allowed them a lot of the things they've been doing. And then there was the FISA courts that they created, which also allowed them to do a lot of corrupt things.
No, but without truth, we're nowhere.
Well, absolutely. And so the truth is coming out. It is. And depending on what level you're digging, you're seeing it. They're even like, they just disclosed, the Pentagon just disclosed a couple weeks ago some footage of a UFO. And that's the first time that the government has officially acknowledged UFOs.
Unless it's them, unless it's the government, It's all
well, yeah, of course it could be. Of course it could be. But that's your speculation. You don't know. But what we do know is that for the first time ever, the Pentagon acknowledged that UFOs exist. And so that's what I'm getting at, is like, it has to happen slowly. It has to be a slow enough rollout that it doesn't shock the people too much. Because I'll tell you, there's truths that would shock.
You know the triangle spaceship, don't you? It's quite big. It's supposed to be the size of a football pitch. By accident, I filmed that going over my head. I was taking a picture of the moon.
Oh, the moon.
Well, that triangle thing, it's got 3 orbs and then an extra one swims down. Well, I was filming the moon, and it's on my pictures. You can see it whizzing round really on the pictures. It's over there in that one. I go click, and then it's over. It's moved quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think some of those are definitely ours. As in, they have the top secret divisions, and they've been developing these flying free energy craft. Maybe they can even.
I don't think we understand what bees are about, to be honest, because When I was watching about bees, they obviously levitate and then they
Yeah.
harmonize to a frequency. And once they hit that frequency, they can go 40, 50 miles an
Yeah.
hour. I mean, I don't want to be hit by a bee going that fast.
Yeah.
These things can fly really fast and they can go for miles.
Right. And they shouldn't even be able to fly based on their weight to wing size
Ah,
ratio. And yeah, no, there's and that's the thing. There's so many mysteries, right? There's so many mysteries that are just left, and they just gloss over them. Like another one I found. Have you heard of this red mercury?
I'm not sure.
You should look into that. It's very interesting. And there's, some people claim it's a conspiracy theory, but I've seen some video that's very convincing. And then, they say it's not. But basically, it's like you can't see it in a mirror. You have a piece of mercury on a plate. This guy showed, and you just don't see it in the mirror. You see the plate. You see everything he's doing. He writes on the plate with a Sharpie, but you don't see the red mercury. And then they say that they used to use these in buildings. In the steeple on like the church, on the very tip, there'd be like a ball or a crescent moon shape something, and it would be filled with red mercury. And going back to this idea of Tartaria or ancient, these buildings, the architecture, that's just another mystery. Like, well, did they really build this? Did they really build that World's Fair and then just tear it down? No, I don't
Yeah, you
think
mean the
so.
one in 1890, whatever it
Yeah,
was.
a few of them are just so suspect. You're like, why would you build such a beautiful thing and then tear it down?
Yeah, they've moved into these places and torn it down. They've been getting rid of buildings for a while.
hmm And
Imagine what it
so,
would really look like if we'd been, and people could have documented it 100 years ago. Look at all the buildings we would
hmm
have had. I
hmm
think that's what wars are about. Wars are just to destroy the Tartaria
so
buildings.
yeah, probably in many cases, you're right. Um,
It's one of the things that they do with wars. They destroy buildings.
yeah, and they control the people's minds in the whole Hegelian dialectic, um, and that's how they.
Can I just say we've been going for an hour and a quarter now.
Oh well,
Yeah. Oh, it's always fun with you, Aaron.
I can talk like this.
No, it's cool. People will like listening to you. I just wondered. I don't know where Amy is. She's muted at the moment. Are you there, Amy?
I'm here.
Oh, you were just listening in. If we round up the hangout, so we start with you, and then obviously Aaron can give his answer after yours. So, what do you make of everything with Lumen Project, the whole thing with
Well,
What if that guy that Mike Helmick says that oh, it's rubbish, it's been thrown out, and you think no, it said they won.
right. Yeah, I really like the idea of the Lumen project. I think it offers a lot of hope,
hmm
to resolve so many of the problems that we're facing. And yeah, and like Aaron said, you have to take it slowly. So, but I think that's a good thing. If we take it slowly and then it winds up working, rather than just be hasty or for lack of a better word, you don't want to be hasty and then it all falls apart. Like if we can
Right.
implement it slowly, I think it's a really good message of hope, because we don't hear too much hopeful ideas really, especially now with everything the way it is. So I really am glad to hear about the Lumen project. And I wish you all the best, Aaron, with that project. And, that it just continues to be successful and bring some
hmm
hope into the world. So it's been very
Yeah.
fascinating to listen to. Brilliant. Very brilliant.
Oh, lovely,
And
Amy.
very
Thank you, Adrian.
encouraging. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So thank you for sharing all
Thanks
that.
for that, Amy.
Oh, you're welcome, Karen.
Mm. Aaron.
Well, thanks for saying that, Amy. I really do
Oh, you're
appreciate that.
welcome.
I've been, because I haven't put anything out there really too much. It's just been kind of my own, lonesome journey
Yeah.
to launching this, but you know, I do believe that, like yourself, you know, people would be into this. That I think almost everybody is into this,
Yes.
whether they realize it or not yet. Of course, you know, most people don't know what it is yet, and even though I'm describing it, you probably don't know what it is, and that's understandable. But you will. Everyone will know what this is once I really get going with it. Once I start putting things out there, and it is about the right time, and it's about me finishing some things.
Yes.
But I intend to be very aggressive once I launch. So it's kind of a slower process up to that time, and then once I do launch, you'll know about it, and you'll hear my name. You'll know, you know, everyone will be hearing my name because I'll make sure of it.
Right.
And so that's my intention.
No,
But until then,
awesome.
you know, I'm continuing to work on it, and I'm continuing to follow the times and follow what's going on in the world and try to make sense out of everything.
If somebody wants to join it, then Arron, then what do they do?
Well, they just reach out to me at this point. There's nothing to join or sign up with just yet. I mean, you could put your email address in one of those websites, projectlumen.org or eartharon.com. I think, yeah, I have a form there. And also ironcoin.org
Yeah.
is another one. And there'll be plenty of opportunity to be a part of this once I really get going. And it'll be really, like, I'll be coming out. I'll be probably doing daily videos almost, just to kind of update on everyone on what's going on, but also that's part of it. See, this is like, it's not just me acting by myself, although it has been up to this point. But
you don't mind if I mirror some of those, do you, Arron?
Oh, absolutely not. I love it. And you know, once I really get going, it's going to be more of a matter of bringing in the people who see the same vision, who have the skills that can really help to bring it into reality, and we'll do it. It'll be a team effort. And you know, it's just that the stuff I'm doing now has been so. It's just been me having to figure it out, and it had to be that way because I've tried to even bring other people into it already, and it just doesn't work because it's such a complicated, subtle thing.
Right.
They want to take over, don't they, Arron?
Well, not necessarily, but just, you know, it might take me too long to explain things as opposed to just going forward with it. And so really I've kind of just accepted, this is my journey until I get to that point of launching, but then I fully intend it's going to be a big group effort. And that's really what's going to propel it, I think, onto the main stage. Yeah. And then we'll get onto the main stage and then look out, see what happens. And that's why timing is so important, because we don't want to be on that main stage right now. It is nuts. And so waiting to let some of the
You mean let them kill themselves first?
Let them battle it out, and let them take out as many people as possible, and then we'll come in and we'll clean up the rest. Basically, that's how I view it. And you know, regarding like the political structure and everything, you know, I in no way am blindly. I don't have blind faith in any politician, and that includes Trump. You know, and if at any point any of these people get out of line, from my perspective, I recognize that. And so, you know, I'm not banking on these things with like, you know, the justice and all that. Like, if justice,
I'm so glad. Don't bank on any of them.
Right. So if justice is not served, then you'll see me down the road helping to serve it. I am pretty confident that it will be served, at least to some degree. But
hey,
I don't
Arron,
know.
you can serve them with the Project Lumen.
No, exactly. No, exactly. And that's a good point,
you're
actually.
Served.
Yeah.
You've been served.
You've been served. A new system.
You know, and that's a really good point. Is just, and maybe I'll try to leave it with this.
Hey, I think that's a good what do you call it? A marketing, that is, Arron.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we do aim to serve here.
You've
at
been
Project
served.
Um, serve, serve the people and serve the summons to the summons to the criminals. I don't know.
Project Lumen.
So the thing I want to just mention with this is that really it's going to come down to the people getting behind it. It's going to come down to everyone just standing up for what is right and deciding that we are fed up with these old, outdated systems that only serve the few that don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And so we do want to see justice, and we will, as much as we possibly can, achieve.
Right.
But at the same time, what's more important is just that we stand up as a people, and we do what's right for us now, but also for all future generations. And so,
Yes.
it's going to come down to us. So I'm doing my part as much as I can, and I'm going to try to get it out there as much as possible. But really, it is going to come down to us all getting on board with a common vision, working together to achieve this.
Yeah.
Because
we're not used to that anymore, are we? Working together anymore, because our
no,
whole
we're not.
society is all about being an individual and separate and isolated.
Competition
Yeah.
and everyone kind of doing the same thing in competition with each other, rather than these companies should be cooperating so that we can have better things as a result of these geniuses cooperating, rather than all these various geniuses being in their own little bubbles and having to reinvent the wheel because no one wants to share their top secret proprietary information because they're
Right.
all stuck in greed, and that's why open
We
source, that's why
definitely
all
are a secret society.
oh, absolutely. And there's multiple of them again. And so it's very messy, and we don't want to really clean that up. We want to just go straight to the solution. And so we don't have to mess with the current system and try to
serve
bring
everybody with Project Lumen as the solution. It'd be great.
Yeah. Here's a great example is like what was my great example? I might have just forgotten it. Basically like okay. So with let's say, well, even this vaccine thing, okay? The people don't want to take vaccines. We don't want to have mandatory vaccines. We don't want to take them at all, probably, unless you don't know the dangers of them, then you don't mind. But if you know the dangers or just all the uncertainties and unknowns, then you know that it's a bad thing and we shouldn't be taking it. And so there was this court case. Yeah, that's fine and all. But really, if the people just decided that, no, you can't mandate vaccines, then that's it. See, and that's the thing that I think, that's the message I really want to get across here in the end is that we, the people, have the power. And even the U.S. Constitution gives the people that power. The 10th Amendment basically says anything that's not in the Constitution is left to the states or the people. And that's huge, because that basically means that if the people decide that these governors are being unconstitutional, then we can just fire them. We can just get rid of them. Even that, we don't even have to vote them out of office, because we can just decide that, no, you're a criminal. We're gonna all sue you, and we're gonna, we can stand together as a people, and we can make these decisions. That's why I'm recommending that we start the process of figuring out how to have a constitutional convention, where and I think we should do it for the whole world, because now we're the whole world's connected. Unlike 1776, we're all connected now. And so we can have rights. We can basically have a document that protects the divine rights of all the people of the world. And anyone who has a problem with that or tries to go against it will now be held in a court of law and with a
does
trial.
Project Lumen sort the media out as well and puts most of them in prison?
We can do that. And absolutely.
Yay,
I mean,
vote Project Lumen.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Here's my thought about that. I just had this thought last night. Is in the First Amendment of the Constitution, you have the freedom of speech, and you are free to, free expression, say whatever you want. However, there are limitations. You cannot incite a call to action of violence. Okay, So you can't get all these people riled up to go conduct violence against another person. That's illegal still. Another example where you can't do something is you can't yell fire. You can't falsely yell fire in a crowded theater. So if there's no fire, you can't yell fire. That's actually breaking the law.
Yes.
And so
That's
now
the law today, isn't it? That's actually in law today.
that is the current law. Yeah, that's constitutional
Yeah.
law. However, or I should say, however, now let's take that, which is a law, and let's apply that to what's happening now. You could certainly argue that the mainstream media is falsely yelling fire in a crowded theater. That crowded theater being the world stage or their media platforms that millions of people are watching and believing what they're saying, and they are falsely yelling fire. There is no coronavirus, it's the flu. All the doctors are coming out and saying it now, so all the data backs up that statement. So that's not just a conspiracy theory, that's the factual statement that the majority of doctors would consent to. So so they are literally breaking the law. So these media companies are breaking the law. They're violating the Constitution.
That's what's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be millions of lawsuits against the government in a few months' time.
And there already are. There already are. The lawsuits are going like crazy. If you want to start looking into those, you'll see that like they're trying to sue these people out of power. Like Gavin Newsom,
all I can say is bad to the people. Then bad to the people.
Absolutely. And then what I'm just suggesting with this is, let's look into this, because I think this isn't just a lawsuit. This is criminal action, which could have criminal recourse, and it should.
Arron, maybe you should hurry up with the project, with the Project Lumen then, because it might be a big gap for you to fill soon.
I agree. Well, I should get back to work then. But yeah,
it's always great having a chat. Arron's very cerebral and so forth, aren't you? You know your stuff, and you've got this project, and I'm very proud of you, Arron.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me a place to talk about this. This is good.
That's okay. We have our hangouts every now and again, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But you'll have to come back, because obviously, people will want to hear more about Project Lumen. And like I said, there's probably going to be a big gap for it soon. So hurry up, Arron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's already, I'd say, a big gap right now. So I'm on it. I'm working around the clock.
When you launch it,
Oh, yeah. I know.
Okay, we won't talk about that, because I'm sure it presses on your mind quite a lot.
I fully agree, though. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Oh.
Yeah. Amy, do you want to say anything?
I'm just very proud of Arron for, his dedication to this. And I just pray that it really, is successful and will bring a lot of hope into this world, because I think that would be wonderful. And that's what we all need right now, is because a lot of people has given up hope, and you've got people that are buying into this whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. But then you've got ones that are awake, but they're saying, well, it's nothing we can do. We just gotta, but if we could offer some hope, I think that's the best thing, because people are even becoming depressed, not so much the ones that believe in the coronavirus, but people that are upset about, well, what does this mean for us?
The New World Order takeover.
Yes, I think those people are, that are worried about that.
I'm going to the moon then.
Yeah, we'll go to the moon.
Can hide out. Well, they're on the moon. They live in the moon. They have a headquarters in the moon. We all know that.
Yeah, they're watching us. That's what I think.
Yeah, like Truman Show.
Yeah.
I'll take to those comments, Amy. We've been going an hour and a half, an hour and 34 minutes to be precise. But Arron, will you come back and talk to us soon about more of what's happening with?
No, that's
and you're
great.
Up to date on the pile of tricks.
Absolutely, I'd love to. I'd love to have some good updates as well coming back. So, and also I'm considering. I don't want to fully commit to it, but I will tell everyone listening that I'm strongly considering start doing a channel soon, like kind of a just a more regular presentation of some of this material, some of the findings that I've been coming across over, just my various research and studies and integration with these solutions, because it's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
because you need to promote yourself, don't you? And you've got to promote yourself and get yourself out there
There's
to
that.
promote the project.
I need to promote, but also it's going to take people a little while to understand what this even is. It's not just one sitting where you kind of understand it. And
Yeah, because
also I want to be
yeah,
able to respond to
don't you, Aaron,
questions.
when you get into all this stuff, there's no way you can explain Project Lumen in 5 minutes.
Right.
You might be able to do a little video about it and explain a little bit, but this stuff takes talking, and it just does.
There's a lot of pieces to it,
Mm.
and it also it keeps on evolving. It's quite different now than when we first started talking about it. And rightfully so. I mean, that's how it needs to be. It needs to be able to adapt and grow based on the changing times and the changing needs of the people. I see a much greater urgency now for a social media solution that's censorship free. For example, as opposed to all the YouTube and the Twitters and the Facebooks that are just actively censoring truth speech right now. And so that's a great need, which I've always seen that, but now I see it's almost like I need to get that thing done next week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably not going to, but.
Well, we wish you well finishing off Project Lumen, and we look forward to you talking some more about it, or even being able to put your videos on the channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been really great. Thank you so much, Amy. Arron, chat room.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.